Okay. All right. Hello again. Welcome to the Black Brain Trust. Today is Monday, August 27th. We have a great show for you all today. Today, of course, is Monday, and that means space and technology. We have a short list, a short docket for you all today. I'm one of your co-hosts, Lionel. My other co-host here, Mike. How you doing today?
Doing good, brother.
All right, we already got one dislike so far. That is fine with me. Uh, so with that said, let's go ahead and get into the show. Let's start with the first docket. First topic on the docket. This one comes from ccn.com. Titled Chinese retail giant JD.com launches open blockchain platform. Article JD.com, China's largest retailer and e commerce provider, has deployed an open blockchain platform to enable customers to have their own blockchain solutions to improve the transparency, efficiency, and security of their operations. The company announced on its corporate blog. The JD blockchain open platform expands the company's retail as a service and will allow customers to build smart contracts on both private and public enterprise clouds. The platform will allow companies to streamline tracking of products, movements, property assessments, digital copyrights, and authenticity certifications. The company oversees quality control of its offerings on the App Store to allow users to customize applications. Platform includes an application store that offers software and numerous blockchain-based layers developed by independent software vendors as well as JD.com's internal development team. The platform will be especially helpful to companies lacking the capability to develop blockchain solutions on their own. China Pacific Insurance Company, or CPIC, has become the first JD.com partner to use the open blockchain platform. The insurance company applies a unique blockchain ID to each invoice document, improving the efficiency and streamlining the accounting process, thereby strengthening the security governance of electronic invoices. Yan Hong Pan, Vice President and Chief Financial Officer at CPIC, said the invoice system has improved operational efficiency. Jian Pei, who oversees big data and smart supply chain at JD.com, said the open platform was initially developed for the company's own operations to improve visibility to customers. Earlier this year, JD.com launched AI Catapult, a blockchain and artificial intelligence accelerator, and has developed AI applications at Silicon Valley Lab as well as Catapult already includes companies such as Bankoros, a Chinese fintech provider, Cania, an Australian-based cryptocurrency company, Bluzelle, a Singapore-based blockchain-powered database service, Nuggets, a blockchain-based ID platform and payments platform based in London, and DeVry, a blockchain-based product verification protocol. Last year, JD.com introduced a blockchain platform to allow customers to track the development process for products and food items they buy. This initiative deployed blockchain-based tracking for more than 11,000 stock keeping units and 400 brands. JD.com will allow work with certificate authorities and software providers to examine ways to apply blockchain for business use, such as enterprise resource planning. In an article. All right. Now this one for the coming adaptation of blockchain. We're seeing blockchain comes from this obscure software, this obscure technology that had its ties that came to the party with Bitcoin and had its dirt with the Silk Road drug trade. But now, as more and more companies are using this technology with this, which is very much useful in the real world, you're seeing it applied to other industries and other genres and to things that you may not have thought of. Now, this article named at least 7 different industries that JD.com will use blockchain for and its partners in. And with blockchain, including AI on top of the blockchain technology, this these two technologies in one can be revolutionized in the future. And when I say future, the next decade, starting in 2020.
Absolutely, and I think you've pretty much hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. And I remember you speaking. You actually brought up months ago how um, AI with blockchain can be something that can be revolutionary.
Right, it takes the human element out of it, and it won't require any human interaction. See, typically what happens with Amazon Prime is that you order a package and you expect to get it the same day, and what we see in a lot of urban environments is that a lot of those packages get stolen, either due to negligence by the carrier or by some nefarious fellow walking down the street decides to pick up that package before you even get to it. What the blockchain and AI would have done is it would have secured that parcel through mechanisms in logistics, but also it would have had the AI call you and say your package is outside. You need to come get this out here right now before something even happens to it, whether it gets wet because of rain or some other inclement weather, or some vandal decides to take it off your porch or your stoop.
And I've used the UPS package tracking before, and it's sorry. It's really is a sorry piece of software, to be honest.
Yes.
What you just said, the AI actually calling you or texting you or sending you an email, we can debate the email, but let's add that in now. But it contacting you saying, hey, you have your package here, and you know what kind of area you live in, or like you say, you live on the stoop, and they leaving that package out on the stoop with everybody to see, okay, I need to get my package in the house. This can be very helpful.
And not just from a trucking standpoint, but from a drone standpoint, because if they're putting in patents now for drones that can actually um, that's actually going to pick your packages up, your parcels up, and deliver it to you from end to end over the air. What's to say that somebody doesn't take that package from the drone or that parcel from the drone? Or what
Mm,
happens if that drone gets confused on where it needs to go because there's multiple addresses at the same spot, right?
mm,
Um,
mhm,
it, floor A, floor B, floor C, things like that that can cause confusion. That can actually send a drone or something like a drone into a tizzy. So,
mm.
the blockchain artificial intelligence would actually correct a lot of those areas.
Now, let me add this on what you just said with the drone. The technology now is coming out now. It's not perfect, we know that, but as time goes on and different iterations shows up, it'll become refined. But when it comes out, at that time being, when it's confused and say, okay, where do I go? It starts to text you, or it and you say, well, my apartment is on the third floor of this 5-story building, and it updates automatically. So now it knows, okay, it's on the third floor, but this building is a correct building because all the buildings look the same, especially in a row houses. They all look the same. So it can know where to drop the package off.
Right, and there's multiple ways. You don't have to call somebody's phone per se, but people use WhatsApp, they use Google Hangouts, they use FaceTime. All of these APIs would allow you to interface with with a mechanism like on the blockchain, right? So you can
Hmm.
authenticate to that actual user's ID.
Hmm. Hmm. And what we're going over, I don't even know we really scratching the surface of what these technologies can be applied to and how it can change people's daily lives. But the ideas we're throwing around with each other, yeah, we're opening people's eyes on what can happen, but there's other stuff that this can be applied to that could be coming down the pipeline, or somebody hear one thing and say, that's fine and well, but what about this? So yeah. All right, let's get to our next article. This one comes from bitcoinist.com. Title: UPS files for a patent for a blockchain-based shipping system. All right. Article: Despite the fact that the overall cryptocurrency market has declined with around 70% since January 2018, interest in blockchain-based technology grows stronger. Yet another major company, UPS, demonstrates its serious intentions for implementing DLT, or distributed ledger technology, in its operations. UPS boards a blockchain bandwagon. The shipping giant UPS has filed an application for a patent with the U.S. Patent and Trade Office. The company seeks legal protection for a system which takes advantage of blockchain based technology for storing different types of information within a distributed ledger network. The data includes details about the package's destination, its actual movement, as well as transportation plans and others of the kind. The patent reads, quote, an exemplary method comprises receiving and storing in the distributed ledger services offers for transporting a shipment unit. Receiving and storing in a distributed ledger shipment unit data comprising an origin, a destination, and transportation parameters. Matching service offers stored in the distributed ledger to the shipment unit data to generate a transportation plan for transporting the shipment unit in accordance with the shipment unit data. End quote. UPS is not the first major company to explore the possibilities of distributed ledger in the shipping industry. The Commonwealth Bank of Australia, or CBA, recently shipped and tracked as much as 17 tons of almonds using distributed ledger technology, as well as smart contracts and Internet of Things, or IoT. The project was carried out in collaboration with 5 international and domestic supply chain leaders. Speaking on the matter, CBA Managing Director of Industrials and Logistics and Client Coverage, Chris Skugall, said, quote, our blockchain-enabled global trade platform experiment brought to life the idea of a modern global supply chain that is agile, efficient, and transparent. We believe that the blockchain can help our partners reduce the burden of administration on their businesses and enable them to deliver best in class services to their customers. End quote. So, this article is really putting more logs on the fire of what we just talked about with the first article. With the blockchain having the capabilities of streamlining, B, making it more efficient, and C, really making it helpful in terms of shipping and supply chain. The blockchain is here to stay. A lot of people can argue about that. This argument of, oh, like I previously said in the last article, the drugs in the Silk Road, that doesn't fly anymore. When you have these big companies such as UPS, and when UPS is going to get in, FedEx is going to come. FedEx get in, DHL, Amazon, and even the United Postal Service is going to get in. So when one competitor get in, you get all these other competitors that are going to jump in the pool also. So blockchain is here to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. We you had just mentioned in the last article about how lousy UPS's tracking system was, and I think this may actually improve it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that tracking system, because I've used it a number of times, and it has the option of you requesting when your package get in, and it doesn't even you can get off of work, come home, and see your package there, open it up, read the instructions, do whatever you got to do with it, and put it up, and the app still has not updated saying your package has delivered. That's how sorry it is.
You know what that's from? Is from poor relational database implementation. So that's not so much of a problem with UPS, but more of a problem with the database itself. So depending on how frequent the database queries and updates, that will determine whether or not you get an update on
Mhm.
your end from a recipient standpoint. So obviously they have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of packages moving a day. Um, I'm not sure what kind of queries are going on per minute, per hour, things of that nature. So it's not uncommon that a relational database is not querying um, by the minute. They may stop the queries or limit the queries down to maybe every hour or something like that, or maybe every 90 minutes. Because if you do too many queries, then what happens is you slow the database down, and databases require a lot of processing power and they require a lot of fast disk access. So
Mhm.
if you don't have those resources available, then you're kind of screwed because once you start tapping those resources and you don't have the elasticity for it to expand out, then you're going to kill that database almost immediately. But
Okay.
that's
Now,
another area that I think that people who listen to this, data science, data engineering, that's where you need to be if you want to improve um, relational databases. That's a very good area to get into in terms of IT.
what was the area again?
Data science, data engineering.
Data science, data engineering. All right.
The,
Now,
the, the, yeah, the titles are kind of interchangeable, but a data scientist basically builds is an architect, and a data engineer would probably be the person to implement it.
okay. Now, and with this, not with the data science, data engineering, but the in inability of the current database to build out, would the human element be a cause why you're not getting a lot of updates when the delivery driver, delivery package are not updating the system?
Wait, say that one time. You was kind of breaking up.
The would the human element be a reason why the system isn't updated also? When the drivers deliver the packages, they're not automatically updating the system saying, hey, I delivered the package to such and such address.
No, once they scan it, it goes into that little trackpad, and then that trackpad is supposed to communicate out, right?
Okay.
So how depending on how frequently that trackpad device communicates out, um, will determine whether or not the database received it and when the database decides to update itself.
Mhm. Now, it's good that you said that because when you said they scan it with the trackpad and it goes to the database. Now, for people to help people understand the blockchain technology use, blockchain, that database will be on UPSs or whichever delivery services blockchain. And the definition of blockchain is a continuous, updated ledger. It's continuously updating. So you got, let's pick a city, let's pick Chicago. It's a nice big city. You got 20,000 trucks, UPS trucks on the streets in Chicago and Chicagoland area. And they're from 9 a.m. to 8 a.m. they're delivering packages. So that constant up blockchain is being updated constantly, constantly, constantly to the newest data down to the second. So that's the purpose for whoever's listening. That's the purpose of the blockchain is a continuous update on whatever is going on in that hour, minute, second period. That's what that's what UPS is implementing the blockchain for to their business structure. All right. Any other points?
Not for me.
All right. Let's get on to our next article. This one comes from Engadget. Title: Japan teams up with Uber, Airbus, and 19 others on flying taxi plan. It wants the vehicles to be operational in the country within the next decade. Again, that same decade, the same theme is going on in the 2020s. The same thing is creeping up more and more as we read these articles and as whoever's listening, you listen to these articles. Article written August 24th by Mallory Locklear. Article: Japan wants to bring flying taxis into the mainstream over the next decade, and it's putting together a government led group in order to do so, Bloomberg reports. The country's trade ministry said to Today that the group will bring together at least 21 businesses, including Uber, Boeing, Airbus, Japan Airlines, and Toyota backed Cartivator, which will meet next week to discuss plans going forward. For its part, the government will work on ways to regulate these sorts of vehicles. The Japanese government will provide appropriate support to help realize the concept of flying cars, such as creation of acceptable rules, the ministry said. A number of companies are already working on various versions of flying taxis. Rolls-Royce unveiled its electric vertical takeoff and landing concept last month, and Airbus Vahana took its first flight in January. Volocopter, which is backed by Daimler, has been testing its flying vehicle in Dubai, while passenger drone and EHang has been busy conducting flights with passengers. Porsche has said it wants to get in the game as well. And Uber has 5 aerospace companies partnering with it on its flying taxi project, while Terrafugia, owned by Volvo parent company Geely, says it plans to have its transition ready for sale next year. Larry Page's Kitty Hawk company also unveiled its Cora air taxi earlier this month. So Japan teams up with Uber, titled again, Japan teams up with Uber, Airbus, and 19 others on flying taxi plan. My one point that I want to speak about with this article was the last sentence. And the last sentence states that Larry Page is the co-founder of Google. Google, correct?
Correct.
Now, we've went over Jeff Bezos, what he's doing with Blue Origin. We've went over what Elon Musk is doing with SpaceX, Tesla, and we've went over what other people are doing with these um, side businesses or their main businesses funding these side businesses that's working on technology concerning space slash autonomous vehicles. I don't know if people can. A lot of people don't see the picture. The picture is very blurry, but as we read more and more of these articles, we're starting to pick up the breadcrumbs of, hey, these owners of these multi-billion-dollar countries, multinational countries, are working on space slash autonomous vehicles. And this is another one.
Yeah, and I think what's starting to happen now is people have to put, companies have to put their patents in now so that they don't wait 20 years from now to get left behind. So
Hmm.
even though you can't use it right now, the point of the matter is to get it, be the first one to get it, and to drive the market's standards. Because right now there are no real standards, right? There may be a consortium, but there's no real standards in place for everybody to play, for rules to be played by. And whoever gets the most patents in will be the ones to drive the standards. A lot of people don't realize that Rolls Royce actually makes jet airplane engines as well as you know shipping container ships engines. They have a patent involved for um, uh, autonomous ships. So instead of
Hmm.
having a ship that gets boarded by pirates and the Horn of Africa and being taken hostage, that ship won't have a person on it. It'd be run by artificial intelligence.
And I've seen Rolls Royces, um, vertical. They said the vertical takeoff machine. Wow, that looks beautiful. I don't know when I've seen it. Trying to find a concept of it while we speak, but the concept they showed, of course they didn't show it taking off, but it looks like the Rolls Royce brand. It fits right in. And you see these things flying around in the future. By 2030, you're gonna see something. But you see these things flying around, now you got these millionaires and billionaires buying these things flying around. If you don't get in the game now, you really gonna be left behind. You're really gonna be a permanent underclass.
There's actually a company in China that was working on a blockchain standard or implementation for drones. So even unmanned and manned drones, right? So the ability to fly drones without crashing into each other or causing any accidents on the ground makes it easier for airports to actually manage which drone belongs to who.
Mm,
Right, so that alleviates a lot of the air traffic problems that I think Yada was referring to in the chat. You wouldn't need traffic lights in the sky or anything like that. I mean, there's enough space available for every drone to have its own flight path. So you what I'm trying to say here is that there's already a urbanization as an implementation of drones, vertical takeoff as well as runway based, like some of these car based drones. These flying cars that they've been talking about. A car that drives down the street, picks up speed, and then takes off into the sky. That's being put in place as well.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I want to say how you doing, Jack? How you doing today?
What's going on, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How y'all doing?
Now, good, good.
So it's
You
a question I have. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say you want to piggyback off this article by you sent the video saying the title of the YouTube video was "The Flying Car Future is Closer Than You Think," and in the video it's basically saying showing in pictures and video what we're saying how you have all of these test flights going on. It may not be on the streets, but people are testing these flights and perfecting it to get it out on the street. And people don't realize how soon this technology is going to be implemented into everyday life in reality.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. And this is a question I'm kind of like. I think it's a great thing that they're doing that. But what one of my concerns are is like, okay, just like with Tesla, they have the cars drives itself, but it's been crashing. You think that's a possibility with these vehicles? I mean, with these aircraft are crashing in the beginning stages of it, like the prototypes, or they're gonna try to control that? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Oh, I guess what I would say to that is that I know you should probably mute yourself.
Okay, let me
Uh,
come ahead.
or Jack, one of y'all. I guess what I'll say to that is there's probably wait. Let me make sure I answer this correctly. Repeat the question, Jack.
All right. So my question is like, okay, the once they implement this, right? Like in the beginning stage, the information they like, you have crashes and something like that, and that's pretty dangerous, man. You have a flying aircraft, that's flying at low altitude.
Okay, so you're talking about flight safety.
Correct.
Okay, so flight safety, right? So you have the National Highway. I forget the NHSTA. I think that's what it is. Transportation Authority. Basically, they're the ones who will certify all that stuff. And then you have the IEEE, if I remember correctly, and maybe the ISO as well, right? Your International Standards Organization boards. If your device I'm referring to a vehicle, does not pass, these standards, then it can't fly. So it's not the same thing as you know a plug-in device that comes out of China that you just plug into your USB port, and then it doesn't really have any regulation. It can probably blow up your computer or give it a virus or something like that. Somebody's actually have to check. Somebody's gonna have to check all of these vehicles um, before they actually are sold to a customer, right? So with sport pilot planes, they actually have a parachute that pops out the top of it if the engine stalls, so it can actually bring you down safely. And you can get a sport pilot license with like maybe 35 to 40 hours of flight time, flight instruction. It's not that hard to get a sport pilot's license. You can actually buy a Cessna plane. If I think it's like you look on eBay or something like that, you could buy a used Cessna plane for like maybe 15 to 20 grand, single engine prop plane. So they've measured out a lot of the standards and regulations before a lot of stuff was even thought out. But when it comes to drones and the autonomy of it, then yeah, there's going to be a lot more scrutinization of how this is actually implemented and deployed.
Okay, now quick question. I mean, you just mentioned parachutes. The parachutes will be tantamount to airbags for land vehicles.
Similar. Similar. An airbag goes off in case of an impact, but a parachute out of the top of some of these sport pilot planes, I think all the sport pilot planes are required to have this parachute, is in case the engine stalls. So it's not uncommon that a single prop engine would stop working. And what would you do in that situation, right? You can kind of glide your way to the ground, but even if you did glide your way, that would be a hard impact. So that's where the parachute comes in to reduce that impact.
Okay. Any back any other points on it, Jack?
Another thing too, I noticed is that they're saying that as far as the back end, as far as landing pads, they don't need. I think that's a great opportunity for somebody who want to create landing pads for these stations, for these flying objects, like, because I didn't hear nobody bring that up yet. And that could be something like you can lease a space, lease a landing pad or something. That's a business opportunity that I noticed, and uh, that's pretty much it. Like the landing pads, because they were discussing that in the video that they're gonna need landing pads and they're gonna need certain other things to kind of like make this a reality to make it functional. So I think there's opportunities in that arena, in that area.
And it all depends, right? Where would you actually want to land this drone? Because let's say you want to go to Red Lobster. Red Lobster's parking lot is full. Where are you going to land it now? Right? There's only so many places that a drone can actually land, and I suspect that these things would be so expensive that the average person wouldn't be able to afford it anyways, unless they're Uber or Lyft. They'll be the ones to actually benefit from buying massive quantities of these drones, for ride sharing purposes. Most people can't afford a car right now, even with with the lease prices as they are right now, right? I mean, you can lease a Toyota for like $50 a month now, and most people can't even afford that. People getting their cars repoed. I mean, what happens when you buy a drone and you can't afford the payments on it, and somebody just comes in and just flies off with your drone in a vertical takeoff formation? Like, how does that work?
And Yada made a good question in the article or in the chat. She said, "Is it knucklehead safe?" And my question to piggyback on her question is it Pookie and Ray Ray safe?
It depends. If Are we talking about an autonomous drone, or are we talking about a manually operated drone?
Manually operated.
Well,
But
you're gonna need a sport pilot's license for that, right? And with the way things are going in the United States, you may not even be able to get a license, depending on whether or not you have a felony conviction or not, because you'll be able to fly over state borders and whatnot. Whether or not you pay child support on time, if you're delinquent or not. There's all types of gray areas that can stop you from actually getting a license and operating a vehicle like that.
Outstanding, outstanding. All right, let's get on to our next article. This one comes from Engadget.com. MIT finds a way for submarines to talk directly to airplanes. Wow. It uses a mix of sonar and radar to overcome water-air limitations. Written 821 by John Fingers. Submarines can't normally communicate directly with anything above the water due to the physical limits of their signal, but that might change in the near future. Researchers have developed a wireless system that can transmit data from an underwater source to the air. The approach, known as transitional acoustic RF communication, or TARF, sends a sonar signal to the surface where tiny vibrations at different frequencies correspond to the O's and zeros and ones of binary data. Above the water, an extremely high frequency radar, 30 gigahertz to 300 gigahertz, can pick up on minuscule changes in signal angles that relate to the data bits. It just matters, it's just a matter of processing the bits into meaningful data after that. TARF doesn't require a perfectly still sea either. New signal processing algorithms use the frequency of waves to tell the difference between large waves and the tiny ones scientists are looking for. The initial approach only works in waves nearly 6.3 inches high, but MIT hopes to refine its use in rough ocean waters. The system isn't about to transmit photos or highly detailed reports when the current prototype can only transmit data at a few hundred bits per second. Decades old dial up modems are faster. Wow. And of course, it's focused on one way transmissions. Even that little bit of data might be enough for all kinds of applications, though. Submarines could send their findings directly to aircraft, including drones, circling above while remaining safely underwater, and without using boats as intermediaries. That could keep sailors out of harm's way and make transmissions possible in solutions where conventional ships just aren't available. All right, two things I want to point out. Normally in a submarine, what happens, yes, it's true, the water limitations is a great limitation when you're going 300 feet under the surface of the water. Normally, what submarines do, and this is well known, that they come close to the surface. They may not come out the out the surface above the surface, but they come close to the surface to deploy their antenna to stick up out the water, then transmit the data, or they'll come out the surface of out from under the surface of the water to transmit the data. That's one point. The second point is I worry that yes, this is a great technology, and I'm all for it, but the hacking involved um, that can give away the submarine's position in the water. If they can work around that and resolve that, then this type of technology would allow the submarine to stay underwater more and to do more, give and receive information to do more missions while at sea underwater.
Well, you're the Navy man here, so you have more experience with this than any of us would. But in terms of the security aspect and being compromised for a submarine, I would assume that they have some form of military grade RSA based security authenticate, not the authentication, but security based mechanism. I mean, it's not uncommon that there's something there's a mechanism called that the military uses now, which is called DDS, which is data distributed security systems protocol. So basically, that is like the closest thing that they could use to securing the communications layer. But at the same time, satellites are actually what they use to track submarines. No matter
Mhm.
whether you're Russia, China, or India, or the United States, that's what they use to track submarines, and enemy ones, and as well as friendly foe. So um, if they were gonna track down a submarine and they really wanted to, they would, I think you may know what this is. It's like a wolf pack. to go find a submarine, go hunt a submarine down.
Hmm. Um, I've met many of surface sonar technicians that after I tell them I was on a submarine, that they'll say some of their best work because being a sonar technician is can be grueling because you're sitting there in a dark room, one looking at a green circular screen with a line going around looking for stuff, or if you're lucky not to even do that part, you have another part to even sift through the information. But I've met many of sonar techs that'll say, "Wow, some of the most exciting work was looking for submarines." And you're right. Yes, satellites are used for looking for submarines too, because when they beam down, if the submarine is close to the surface of the water, you can is the easiest part is you can see, hey, that's a big 300-foot long submarine. But if the submarine's going 500-600 feet underwater, then at that point you use not submarine, but sonar and different other equipments to find submarines if you're searching for submarines. Submarines, yes. You got any?
Actually,
Go ahead.
Yada brings up a point in the chat that why not use a laser to communicate? And there has been testing, I think, by Raytheon to actually use lasers for communication from underwater because it has enough power to push the signal out.
Mm,
Um, to wherever they need to get it to. I mean, you'll point it to a satellite, but you're not going to point that to another plane, right? You would have to know where the plane's vicinity is, and the plane would have to know where your vicinity is. So that requires a whole lot of submarine warfare techniques to determine whether or not you're a friendly sub versus a foe.
yeah, yeah. With a normal lasers, with the water bending the laser and changing with the power of the water, with the waves and everything, you can't use a normal laser. It got to be a powerful laser. And yeah, you're right. You wouldn't just shoot the information to a normal plane. Hey, if you deep underwater and you're not gonna know what a plane is, but it's more likely to know what a satellite is because you can you already know. Okay, at this point of the day, this satellite's going to be in this vicinity. But yeah, you right with the laser. You got to be a strong laser to push through that water, the movement of that water.
Yeah, it wouldn't take. I mean, some of the common lasers that you can get on the market today are actually pretty powerful to push a signal out of water, not directly into it.
Hmm. Any comments on this one or questions, Jack?
Um, well, I know at the end of that video that's on the article, it said that they can place, I guess, sensors at the bottom of the ocean to like monitor like wildlife or whatever, or or sea life, whatever. So do you think it's another form? If they can kind of like use that, they can militarize. They can use that in the military to kind of sense stealth submarines. Like, can they put on the bottom around the coast, or whatever? Like certain devices, can they sense certain submarines that are stealthy? Can they
I
do that?
was Yes, and to give you an example, there was a movie Rihanna was in. Was that Battlefield? Well, aliens came down, blah blah blah. But the Chinese showed where they used I want to say wave detectors or weather detectors, the buoyants that flow on top of the surface of the water. They were placed in the ocean around Hawaii in a grid formation. So when at nighttime, when you can't see the ship, they would tap into these floating buoyants to tell where a ship is, because when the ship would go past, it'll create waves and the buoyants would float. If you got two buoyants floating in the vicinity where the other one's not floating, a ship is there. Now apply that example to underwater signals or underwater detectors. If you shooting radar, sonar, not the radar, sonar, well, both really, in different directions to track blue whales or any other large godly creature under the surface of the water. But then you hear this long 300, 400 foot thing that's chopping the water behind it. More than likely, that's a submarine. Does that answer your question?
Oh, it definitely does. Appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead to our next article. This one is a bit of a long one, but we are about to get geeky, ladies and gentlemen, on this channel. This one comes from The Verge. Title: Why mining the water on the moon could open up space exploration. Water is the oil of space. Written by Lauren Roosh on August 23rd. I liked how she put that water is the oil of space because it's true. All right, article. Moon mining enthusiasts were particularly gleeful this week when researchers claimed that they had found definitive evidence that water ice exists on the surface of the moon. There's even more water ice than we thought up there too, and we know exactly where a lot of it is. That may make it even easier to mine this water in the future. Long before this discovery, researchers have been eager to scoop up any water that may be lurking on the lunar surface. It's a resource that could be directly valuable for future long-term missions on the moon, since water is essential for life to function here on Earth. It could be recycled inside a lunar habitat or used for drinking water or bathing. It could also be used to help plants grow on the moon, which are needed to nourish the future lunar inhabitants. But perhaps the biggest and most immediate application for lunar water is making rocket propellant. The main components of water, hydrogen and oxygen, are two of the biggest materials that are used to power rockets right now. And making rocket propellant out of the water on the moon could drastically cut down on the cost of doing ambitious missions in space. Right now, rockets leaving Earth must carry all the propellant they need with them. But by leveraging lunar ice, rockets could potentially fuel once they get to space, allowing them to reach distant locations for less money. The idea would get The idea would be to get a sort of supply chain started outside of Earth for certain products, in particular for water as a propellant, so that it could be much easier to navigate to space from the one body to another. Julie Brissett, a research associate at the Florida Space Institute, tells The Verge. Getting anything into space is expensive. If you want your satellite to break free of Earth's gravity, you need a lot of propellant to fuel the ride to orbit. In fact, most of the weight of a rocket launch is just the propellant needed to get the thing into space. And the deeper into space you want to go, the more propellant you need. Greater energy is needed to get farther and farther away from the planet's pull. So missions into deeper space become even more costly to pay for all the extra propellant needed to get there and the bigger rocket to house that propellant. But what if instead of taking all the propellant you need with you from Earth, you refill your gas tank with propellant that's already in space? Then deep space missions become more like cross country road trips. Just imagine if you had to drive out to Denver and there were no gas stations along the way, and you had to bring all your gas from New York. George Sowers, a professor at Colorado School of Mines and former vice president of the United Launch Alliance, tells The Verge. You probably couldn't do it in your car. You will have to tow all the fuel you need. That's why the idea of lunar mining is so enticing. Water from the moon could be mined, broken apart into rocket fuel, and transported to a propellant depot either near the moon or in low Earth orbit. Then rockets wouldn't have to be so big to house all their propellant. They could simply dock with the depot and refuel for longer trips into space. All right. You really get the gist of this as the article goes on. As I was reading that article, I got the idea of not only stopping on the moon to refuel, but stopping on in the asteroid belt that's between Mars and Jupiter, and mining that water as a second stopover, or not even a second stopover, because there's so many asteroids in the asteroid belt, and obviously a good portion, a good significant of those asteroids will hold water. Capturing, well, not capturing, could be capturing and mining those asteroids for water and bringing them to the moon or even Mars to make propellant. So now you have a better chance to go deeper into space because you have refueling stations along the way. And think about the comets. Comets are just big giant balls of ice that's further out in the solar system by Neptune, Uranus, and that big non-planet Pluto. You can use those as rocket propellants to go deeper into space and go to another galaxy, such as the Andromeda Galaxy or Sirius B. So this is like a futuristic thing coming to fruition within the next few decades, the next immediate decades. It's science fiction gone true. Did I geek out enough there, or did I lose everybody?
No, I
No,
got,
you
I
did it.
got.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. And you also have to take into consideration gravitational pull. So each planet has moons that have X amount of gravitational pull between the planet and the moon itself. You know, you go to places like Jupiter and Saturn that have 27 and even up to 100 moons. There's a lot of gravitational pull there, and a lot of the time you can use if you're navigating this out, you can actually use that gravitational pull to
Mm-hmm.
accelerate yourself
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
the next destination. So a lot of the times when you see some of these satellites floating around or being sent out, um, to other planets like Saturn and Jupiter, they really pick up the acceleration in between um, our moon and then the next moon coming up. So that actually speeds it up like a turbo boost. But on this channel we've been discussing space exploration for a couple of months now, and that's the reason why we started talking about it, because it's such a lucrative industry that's gonna take place, and I feel like this is the perfect opportunity for us to actually get involved in some of this stuff. I've talked about space startups. One in every three startups in the next year or so is going to be a space startup, and especially
Mm-hmm.
going forward. And this is a perfect opportunity for us to actually start putting our investments together and getting involved in space exploration, especially with all the warm water ports in Africa, on the Atlantic and the Indian Ocean, and the Mediterranean as well. That could be used for launching pads.
Yeah, because in that video we sent out, purchase of $100 million rocket. They stated depending on how you want your satellite to go compared to the Earth, you have to launch from different sides of the world. You can't launch a rocket. I think they say if it's going with the rotation of the Earth, you have to launch it from Port Canaveral, Florida. You can't launch it from what's that, Seattle, Washington, the base in Washington. So depending on where you want your rocket, your satellite to go, but we're talking about space exploration, which means normally when you launch a rocket, you want to launch it on the coast to give you a better chance to get the rocket out instead of in the middle of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, in the Congo Basin. You want to launch it on one of them islands off the coast of Cameroon, Sao Tome and Principe. or the Seychelles Islands or the Comoros Islands in East Africa, or even Madagascar, or even Cape Verde off the coast of Senegal. These are places that are there. Goree Island, they used to be a slave port. Even though I'm not saying knock down that history, but it can we can put irony to that and say, well, this used to be this, but look at us now. We going into space. These are the things that we as Black people need to think about. Besides talking about Black female effery, these are the things that we can actually do. This is not the Jetsons. This is not something that they do in the movies. This is not something that, oh, Black people don't do that. No, you a lie. We do that, and we are going to do it. So
Go
yeah.
ahead,
Say again.
Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, I agree with you too on that line though. Like, also even just with the fuel, because I started doing research on. I can't find any research on it, but one part that stuck out at me was it said splitting the hydrogen and oxygen and turn that to fuel, right? So I'm like, so I've been trying to find papers on it. I can't find any papers on it yet, but um, that's an opportunity there just with the fuel. Just if you can find a way to manufacture that, and you can make money there too as well. And I think where that's gonna go with this, where they're going with this right now, is they're really pushing for it hard. I really think they're trying to get themselves more into space, man, and kind of create a living in space because um, maybe this Earth is coming too overpopulated. Um, if a calamity happens, they can go there too as well. But also with the asteroid belt. So what type of materials are on the asteroids right now that are very valuable to us? Like, what materials are there?
Yeah, iron ore there. You have different, a lot of the precious metals that are here on Earth. You'll find them in abundance in the asteroid belt. It's said that the first trillionaire, single trillionaire, not trillionaire in terms of a family, but the first, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson said this. He said, more than likely, the first trillionaire that's going to pop up on the planet of the Earth is going to make their money from mining in the asteroid belt. And the asteroid belt specifically meaning that group of rocks, asteroids that lies in between, no, abundantly lies in between Mars and Jupiter.
Mm. Do you think that's why they're such in a race to get to Mars? Want to get to Mars so they can get to there?
Not specifically, that's not the specific reason why, but Mars is close to the asteroid belt, and that can be a byproduct of going to Mars.
Mm. Gotcha. So how soon do you think this is feasible? How soon do you think this is we're gonna be seeing this, live on TV? Like, when do you think it's possible for this to happen?
Mike, you got that one?
Say that one more time.
Like, when do you see this feasible? When do you see it like it's just happening on TV? Like, when do you think it's gonna happen?
Oh, give it about maybe 20 years or so.
20? Okay.
China and Russia are estimating by 2030 that they're going to get to the moon, right? So they're
Mm.
talking about putting a joint base on the moon. I saw that something from South Africa and I think even Ethiopia were talking about getting to the moon by 2045.
Mm. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think there's about maybe 7 or 8 um, space agencies in Africa. So I think Ghana has one. South Africa definitely has one. They put up several satellites already. Ethiopia has one. I think Kenya is working on one. Um, Egypt is working on one as well. And then I think before Gaddafi died, he was working on one.
Mm. They know that.
Yeah, because Gaddafi actually paid for those satellites to get up for Africa. The broadcast TV satellites. 'Cause before they was leasing the satellites from from the European Union at exuberant amounts of money, and Gaddafi was like, why should we lease it from them? We can just put up our own. So he ended up, putting up 2 satellites for Africa. So
Now, Jack, with this information, take this information and think when Trump said he wants to fund, he wants the 5th or 6th branch of the military be the space branch. And only thing you heard was a lot of people saying, oh, see, he's crazy. He's this. He's a lunatic. He's a psychopath, even though he is a psychopath. But because of that, he's a psychopath. But he said that for a reason. Space is the next human frontier. There's money out there. There's money to be made out there.
not just money, but there's resources necessary for people to survive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my understanding is that some of these asteroids actually have diamonds on them. So
That'd
it's
be
not
crazy.
Yeah, if not, you know, not just iridium, because iridium is only found in two places, which is Haiti and South Africa. So
I know there's mountains of it in Haiti. But what's the uses for iridium?
for space travel.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very
man.
valuable.
Mike, who do you think is gonna lead from what you see as far as the technology coming out, as far as the efficiency, some of the technology coming out, the speed? Who do you think is gonna lead this whole charge as far as space frontier? Who do you think is gonna lead it? China or
China's already leading right now.
really?
China's already leading right now. They just put up their own space station.
Hmm.
Yeah, they just put up their own space station, and they're putting up another one. This one is gonna self-destruct on its own. I think it's supposed to come down and actually burn probably in the next year or so. But they're already building the second one, and then they're talking about working with the Russians on putting an actual space base on the moon by 2030, which is only about 12 years from now, right? So China already has the necessary technology for communications. Russia has the capability from a vehicle standpoint. So they have lift capabilities. They have the best rockets in the world. Even the United States understands this, and they use Russian rockets to actually deliver goods up to the International Space Station. So Russia has the means, and as well as China. You put them together, they're going to come up with something really good. The United States has the means too, but the problem with the United States is that it's a hyper-capitalist system, so it's driven by profit, whereas Russia and China are actually doing this for endeavor purposes, right? It's about making their country better rather than doing it for profit.
So what does that say? Damn. So that says they just wanna just do it. They just want. It's not so much for money. They just want to do it just for the people. See what's possible. Okay.
It pushes their people to the edge in terms of knowledge and engineering, right? So how far can we go if we give our people an opportunity? You could probably say the same thing about African Americans, right? How far can African Americans go if you give them the opportunity? You know, Garrett A. Morgan created many inventions that even under the scrutiny of Jim Crow and racism. Imagine if you had 1,000 Garrett Morgans, in one community.
Now I always thought this, and I know it's aside from space and technology, but do you think that's why they spent so much resources over the past, let's say 100 years on, let's say past 50 years to try to lock black people up, try to not give us education so they can, because if they were to really, like, for example, let's say they were to put the resources into the people, I think America would have been way advanced, especially the black communities. Do you think they did that for a purpose reason, just so because they didn't want us to surpass them, even though there's 20% of us in America?
Right, they know what we're capable of doing, right? So if you make the playing field unleveled, right? If you give yourself 100 points against Jordan and there's only a fourth quarter left, and high probability you're going to win the game.
Okay.
Let me get to this last point, or last, yeah, point on the docket. Then we can open it up for um open mic.
All right.
All right, this next one comes from space.com. Another geek session is on the way. Watch NASA's X-ray hunting pulsar detective do a cosmic dance in space by Elizabeth Howell, August 26th. Article: Care to dance? An X-ray hunting instrument on the International Space Station twists and turns in a new NASA video as huge solar arrays rotate behind it. The solar arrays were making way for a fresh space station crew that arrived earlier this summer. The foreground of the video shows NASA's Neutron Star Interior Composition Explorer, or NICER, while it is studying X-ray sources such as pulsars, rapidly rotating, dense stars that emit regular signals of X-ray we can detect from Earth. Over the course of one orbit, which you can see in the video, NICER moves around to track several X-ray sources in the sky. Typical examples might include the Sun or the nearby star system, Alpha Centauri. Officials with NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center said in the video's description, movement in the movie, movement in the movie, which represents a little more than one 90-minute orbit, is sped up by 100 times. They added, scientists also have to take the space station's massive solar arrays into account when planning NICER's maneuvers. Each one of these arrays is 112 feet or 34 meters long, which is a bit shorter than the width of an American football field. Wow, that's pretty big. NICER needs to move before the solar arrays block its field of view. In the video captured June 8th, at first the solar arrays were parked to make way for the arrival and docking of the Expedition 57/57 56/57 crew inside a Russian Soyuz spacecraft. Then the arrays moved to track the sun and provide energy for the space station. While one of NICER's goals is to figure out the size of pulsars, a measure that helps scientists learn what these pulsars are made of, another space station investigation is to try to figure out how to use pulsars for navigation. The navigation technology demonstration, that's a mouthful, I'll read it again. The navigation technology demonstration, called Station Explorer for X ray timing and navigation technology, is investigating whether it is possible to use pulsars as a sort of GPS for future spacecraft navigating in the solar system or beyond. That is pretty cool. You can read more about NICER's work on this NASA's website. That is pretty cool. They're going to try to use these. See, this is next level stuff. They're talking about using pulsars as a GPS when you're traveling this broad expanse of space. Who's thinking about that? Who's
We
thinking
were.
about that? Yeah, yeah. Obviously, we
I think
we
I
out
think
here.
I think we discussed this on one of the original space hangouts. That how would you map out space from a geospatial standpoint? Create your own sort of ways technology for navigating space. You know, which points have dead zones and things of that nature. You would actually there's multiple waves out in space. So you have sine waves, you have square waves, and then you have pulsar and things of that nature, depending on what the distance is and what the direction you're trying to go into. Um, you throw the blockchain into this, and now you have a complete map, authentic map um, of navigation paths
Hmm.
that would be necessary for sending multiple vehicles out for exploration purposes. You want to send out a convoy of shuttles, to hit the next planet or even the next moon. Like one of Jupiter's moons, I think it's called Titan or something like that. They're talking about that; those are livable moons, like, and they're twice the size of Earth.
Mm-hmm. Twice the size of Earth.
Hmm.
And Earth is pretty big. I don't think people understand for one, how big Earth is, and two, how small Earth is in our own solar system, not galaxy. Our galaxy, our solar system is small in our galaxy, but how small Earth is in our own solar system. This is a vast expanse that you really can't wrap your mind around. It's I think, and I'm trying to paraphrase this from what I remember. An astrophysicist saying that take a book, open to any page, find the letter I in any line or sentence on in that page. That dot on top of that letter I, that's Earth. That's Earth in terms of the universe. Now, take reality, Earth's reality, how big it is. That's the universe. It doesn't compare. That dot is smaller than a grain of sand. So just to give people an understanding of how huge this universe is, and it's just one universe. There's a multiverse. There's other universes. How many other universes
You
are there?
know, that's why I think that they really need to start. Um, that's why I think they need to be doing more of a push and research in black holes because that's kind of like a gateway to other, uh, universes or whatnot. But I think that'd be a great way to. That's like an avenue to get to other galaxies because this regular just space travel is it's not get you really anywhere. But the thing is that when I think about it is, we get into like time and certain things like that, but like we haven't really scratched the surface yet of what's out there.
We're not even near the surface to scratch it.
We don't
That's
have a
true.
surface to scratch.
Right, exactly.
Mm.
So this
No, but
this
I see all of this latest technology. I think Manel shared with us earlier today about open CPU compute
mhm.
platform, being able to write code to actually specifically for applications that you need the processor to work to. And you factor in some of these big time CPUs like Threadripper with 32 cores and 256 gigabytes of memory. This is stuff that 10 years ago this wasn't a supercomputer. Now you got this inside your house. Now you can create your own sort of super lab inside of your own residential home, used for cracking numbers to determine what kind of planet has what kind of resources, um, whether it's crypto mining or just planetary exploration. There's a lot that can be done with just a little bit of resources that you can get on the shelf right now. We're talking about consumer grade. We're not even talking about commercial grade.
Mm. Dang. So what do you see technology gonna be at? Like, you see where things are right now. By the time we're old men, you know what I mean? Like, what do you see the next 100 years we're gonna be doing?
Oh, people are going.
Teleporting.
Well, China, Russia, and the United States and Russia in particular have been working on a joint venture for teleportation. China
What?
recently, yeah, they've been doing that for about a few years now. Um, China recently, and I say recent in the last year or so, has been working on space teleportation.
Hmm.
So the main flaw to space teleportation is that I can teleport you out, but you can't come back.
Damn.
That's not a flaw. That's not a flaw.
Well, the flaw is how do you return, right? You go
Ooh.
one way, but you can't come back.
I'm
How do
pretty
you
sure
report
people are
information? How do you
gonna.
report information back to where you are currently?
It depends on who you're sending out.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they're gonna do something. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, if you go. to this place to uh explore. You can't bring back your findings.
or even tell people where you are.
Right. Yeah, you had a point.
I mean, because when you look, because Jack brought up black holes, right? And I think NASA, if you go to, and for those of you who are in New York, there's a actual space exploration program coming up in New York in September. You know, if you guys get a chance to go see that, go on eventbrite.com and you should be able to find it. But these black holes that they're looking at, they're saying this stuff is tearing planets apart,
Mm.
or what's considered to be a planet. So a planet goes inside this black hole and it gets ripped apart, and then it's nothing. So how would a human, or how would we as human beings actually get to this black hole? Because once you get close enough, man, you can't turn
It's gonna
back
tear it
around. You can't
apart.
make a U-turn.
Hey,
Can't make a U-turn.
I'm gonna go on mute for a minute.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, once you get in that vicinity, that's a one-way street. You can't back out, make a 3-point turn, and try to reverse your way out of it. Ain't no coming back from that. So you got to figure out what you're gonna do.
So in other words, you're saying that we're not even ready to do that, to get to that point yet. We're not even there yet, pretty
Not really.
much.
Not really. I
So
mean,
how far has this
you could
research
send.
gone on go ahead.
Go ahead.
How far has this research gone on teleportation? Like what have they revealed so far as regarding to that?
The one thing they've revealed so far is the ability to go forward but not backwards. So you can
Hmm.
teleport out, but you can't come back.
Hmm.
And it takes a lot of energy to actually push you to that destination, but you don't have enough energy to come back.
So that's more of a quantum physics, correct? That's like quantum physics. They're
Absolutely. They have, you know, China was the first one last year to put up a quantum satellite, quantum computing based satellite.
if you can breast me, how does that work? I'm confused. What is a quantum satellite?
Well, the satellite has quantum computing capabilities, so it can actually make all its processing power up in space, rather than to
Damn.
do your quantum computing on the ground. Um,
Okay.
so it takes less time to process information, basically.
Okay. So that's why you have these satellite. For example, there's a new satellite that's um there's a new satellite that literally have one near the surface of the sun. So I'm thinking like, how are they gonna get that satellite to report its findings or report data from being near the sun? So is that more of like quantum? Is that how quantum computers they're using to do that,
I
or
don't
how
know
do
if
they
they're
get the
using.
information?
Yeah, I don't know if they're using quantum computers on that, but they do have processing technology that's fast enough for that, right? So it's more about a communications capability
Okay.
rather than a processing capability. But
Okay. Okay.
the satellite is made to withstand all that heat, so
Hmm.
it shouldn't bother it anyways, according to them. Um, However, the time it takes to send information from the sun to back to Earth would be a tremendous amount of time because it's so far away.
Interesting.
But that's when you start creating multiple relays. You know, you put a satellite or space exploration center on Mars, put one on the moon, then another one back at the International Space Station. You do all your processing capabilities up there.
And how quick, with the information the technology have now, how fast can this information move? Like, let's say they were to bounce signals off, how fast can they get information?
Depends on the distance, right? So the recent satellite that was sent to um, Jupiter, I think, or Saturn. I'm not really sure which planet it went to. It takes, I think, like a day and a half or something like that, like maybe 48 hours for a signal to come back.
Okay.
And that's I think that's what, like, the most recent technology, like in a few years of maybe the last 10 years or so. of
Okay.
what it's been able to do. Because the light path between Earth and that satellite is so strenuous. It just takes that time. You just have to make sure you send out that instruction set correctly, and then it will reach it. Because you have to keep in mind that when they design these satellites, these satellites are designed at least 5 to 10 years before they even deploy. So
Really?
was the technology may have been new then, but once they deploy it out of space, that stuff is pretty old.
Really? I didn't know that. I did not know that. That makes
Yeah,
sense though. It makes a lot of sense.
yeah, because it takes a long time to build a satellite. It can take anywhere between 1 year to maybe 10 years to build a satellite. Um, the Hubble, as great as it is, actually has very old technology, and they still have to
That's
maintain it.
that's what I was thinking. Like, that's why I think they destroy this. Like certain, like they say, the space station or something they put up, they destroy it because it's just obsolete now. Like, it doesn't work.
Say that again.
Let's say like, that's why certain satellites they destroy because it becomes obsolete, right? It just doesn't
Oh yeah,
work. It doesn't interface with what they have right now.
but it serves its purpose. So it doesn't. It's all application specific, right? It only has to do one job, and that's the job that it was tasked with. But
Mm,
it doesn't have to do anything else.
okay. So let me ask you a question, man. We were discussing like, hey, the possibilities to like create our own, like you see, like you have SpaceX, you have what Jeff Bezos is doing. I guess, what was that called? We have
Blue
Amazon.
Origin, Blue Origin.
Okay, so how does one go about doing that? Like create our own? 'Cause I have no clue how the hell you start that shit. You know what I mean? So like, how do you go about your own doing your own thing?
You need some capital investment, and you need a game plan. What's the agenda?
Okay.
What are we trying to do, right? So depending on what the agenda is, what the objective is, that can determine how much we need to invest. So I think we discussed this some weeks ago, but and you may not have been on there, but on that hangout. But just to reiterate for people who are listening now, you can get a very high definition telescope for $14,000 that can see
What?
other,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I just said me going. That's not bad. That's nothing, man. Like, okay, that's
right?
not bad.
Right. It's made by Celestron, right? And you can get a DSLR camera to actually capture all of these images in high definition as well, connected to that telescope. And there's actually a laptop um, connector with a tripod that's motorized. So basically, you can put the calculations in, the coordinates in for where you want the telescope to look at, and it would actually that motorized tripod would actually move the telescope in that direction.
Mm.
So altogether, right now, just that setup alone would probably cost you about maybe 15, 16 grand.
Hmm.
Now take into consideration, um, you're also going to need some man hours for like coding and things like that. So you're probably going to need like a coder. A programmer is probably going to cost you anywhere between 55 to $65 an hour. That's typical. Um,
Okay.
that's typical. So now you're talking about processing capabilities as well. So our processing capabilities, we're talking about building out a small mini data center, right? So we're talking about high performance computing. We can spend maybe 10 grand on high performance computers. I think I know, and I have been looking at Falcon, Dell Alienware. Any one of these computers can actually process a lot of the capabilities that a lot of the things that we need done. And then you need a facility to house all these things. So you can actually get a grant from the U.S. government to actually, for research purposes, to actually use a facility
Hmm.
um, for processing these capabilities. Or we can go really grassroots and probably take a shipping container and mount the telescope on there and drop that shipping container maybe somewhere far out in outside of the city, so you don't have light pollution.
Hmm.
There's a variety of ways we can go about it, but from a cumulative standpoint, from a cumulative price standpoint, we're talking maybe about 35 to 50 grand bare minimum to for to get involved from a turnkey standpoint, or from a grassroots standpoint.
That's deep. So it's so simple. It's just simple, but I guess people don't know the knowledge about it. But all it takes is a couple people to come together and put that together, and then boom, you got something there.
Yeah, this is something that everybody can actually contribute to. It
Hmm.
doesn't, it could be a crowd-funded project. So I've seen projects for documentaries get $100 to $200,000 in crowdfunding. So I can't see why a space exploration program would not be able to get something like this, especially coming from brothers.
That's interesting. Damn, that's it makes like this. Just listening to this, and it makes you think like, yo, it opens your mind of like anything is possible. You just gotta just figure it out. Something simple as
Absolutely.
space travel. It's not complicated. I think that we think it's complicated, but really, if you just I guess the way you explain it is like you just is really just simplify and break it down. It's like it's just really simple.
Yeah,
Simple.
I think Ghana spent like, what was it, $100 with a weather balloon to put a shoebox satellite into space. That was like maybe 6 7 years ago.
Now the shoebox satellite, what's capable is that? What would you use that for?
I think it just had like a small camera on there, like a small Sony CyberShot camera on it or something like that, and they took pictures of the Earth from low Earth orbit, which is Leo, and
Hmm.
the balloon went high enough to actually take the shoebox satellite to take pictures of the Earth. That sort of
Wow.
capability, and these are poor people in inside Ghana that did this. It wasn't like, oh, there was some ballers, right? These
Wow.
were poor people that did this.
Hmm.
Damn, man. So like everything like we just sometimes I look at some people now, we're just wasting time, man, wasting talent, man. We can just do it. We can make it happen.
Now
We can
you
make
know
it
why
happen, man.
we have the Black Brain Trust.
Mm. Mm. Okay. I
we
get
were
it
very
now.
we were very frustrated with some of the other hangouts, and so we decided that this is what we really want to focus on, and this is an avenue that we think that can be not just for talking purposes, not just for dialogue purposes, but from an actual business standpoint. We can
Mm.
actually we can actually explore these options.
Amazing, ain't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Minell had that big telescope from Celestron that he can't imagine having something like that in his house.
Oh, I'm gonna get it. Trust me, I'm gonna get that. Yeah, man. We gonna we
Do you
gonna
have, do you have that in your favorites?
on,
Your book?
on Amazon or something.
No, no, no. The video of the Celestron telescope, because the people don't understand how big it is compared to the person's head.
Let me see. Let me look it up. It's not in my favorites. I don't know why I didn't. That's a good point. Let me see. Celestron telescope. That thing is huge. You need some muscle. You can't just pick that thing up with one hand. No, it's not gonna happen. You're gonna break it.
That's
And
a
it weighs
cannon.
12. Right. It weighs $12,000.
Hmm.
Thinking you, oh man, I got this. Here you go. Look at this. Amazing. I mean, just amazing. Man, when you see the okay, I understand you got an intro. Here we go. Look at the lens on this thing, man. Just
Make sure your volume's off.
oh, I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna do the volume. Record the volume. Oh yeah, volume off. Okay, okay, yeah. Okay, let me. Okay, look at that thing. You see it, Jack? The one behind him. Am I still?
Yeah, you're still recording.
Okay. Look at that thing. I mean, that's like a. Whew.
That's a big girl right there.
Yes, it is.
Plus size. BBW.
Right. He playing with that skinny girl, Nah, yeah, get to that
Yeah, I
one.
never looked through a telescope, so like you can literally see planets. Like you can literally, do you see like the color of them or something on those, or like
Oh
how
man,
what can you really see?
you can see the surface of the moon with all the crevices and craters inside of it. It's amazing. Lionel and we did a hangout before. I think one of our early space hangouts where somebody had was recording Saturn. You
Hmm.
could see the rings in Saturn, literally.
Nah,
Let me try to look it up. Oh. You don't believe us? Oh, okay.
nah. You can see
Okay,
the
hold on.
rings, man.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
tell us that was the AW astronomer or something like that.
JW astronomer.
JW astronomy. JW. Okay. Okay. You sound like you don't believe us. You sound like you don't believe us, homie. Okay.
And that telescope was
Hey,
on
cuz.
sale some weeks ago. I think it was marked down to like 9 grand or something like that.
Hey, 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 yo, cuz. You see this right here, cuz? You see this right there? That's Jupiter right
Right?
there, cuz.
That's a planet, cuz.
It's a
Dang,
planet.
that's crazy.
That's a
That's
planet.
crazy,
Oh, oh, you
man.
want to see some more? Okay, I got you. You got Saturn right there, cuz.
What?
You got Saturn right there.
That's
And
crazy, man.
see my cursor? That's the telescope right there. The telescope right there, cuz. What you got?
That's crazy. What?
What else you want? What else you want? Hold on. Okay, it changed colors a little bit. Let me like. Oh no, it didn't change. He just did something. Um,
I think he went from monochrome to color.
yeah. Okay, that's okay. What I said. Okay,
Maybe color eats up a lot of space.
yeah, that's Saturn, and I think he about to look at the moon right here. He's repositioning his telescope. Okay. No, wait, no. He about to look at what? I think Mars. I
What's
think
that? Mars?
yeah, I think he about to look at Mars because it say Mars, Saturn, Jupiter live through my telescope.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, man. And and the only reason this the the shaking it's not that like it's not a perfect circle. It's the light. The you know
Stability.
yeah. Yeah, man.
And that's a household. That's the one that was the one from the picture.
Yeah,
That's the one in the beginning of the video, right?
he's on his deck. He's outside on his deck.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a clear night. You got what you need, cuz. What's up, man? Hold on, wait a minute. That's Saturn right there. Remember Saturn and
Mm.
Neptune is the planets with the rings. Saturn rings go around its belly, and Neptune rings go around his head and feet.
So that's the which one's that?
That's Saturn right there, man.
That's Saturn. Okay,
Saturn right there, cuz. We we ain't here, cuz.
that's crazy, bro.
Tell the homies. Right? And then the part about it, um, you can't see it, but sometimes you see little white dots, and those are
What's the
it's
white dot? The moons?
yeah the moons. It's not showing up in in this one right here. So if that's cool, man.
That's dope.
The not just the white dots, but the white dots at that distance because after Mars, you got the asteroid belt, then you got Jupiter, then you got Saturn,
Mm.
but you can still see the little white dots. And some are, I'm not saying they're like huge, but you can say, hey, what's that? That's the moon. And this when was this video? This video was this month, August 2nd.
Hmm. What YouTube channel is that?
This is a guy, his name is JW Astronomy.
JW Astronomy. All
Yeah,
right.
J.W. Astronomy. And Mike, he put that Canon up to the he put that Canon DSLR up on the telescope to take the pictures too.
Right. Right, and it's important. Well, not important, but I just want to make this other point that Africa wouldn't be the only place of launch, but you can actually use Haiti because it's a warm body, it's a island that's surrounded by water.
Mm. Hey Jack, what's the island off the coast of Haiti? Haiti.
I think he
Jack, you
stepped
there?
away. He stepped
Yeah,
away.
yeah, yeah. I'm right here. I think it's
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I think it's Lago now. Let me double check.
you know what island
Uh,
I'm talking about, right?
yeah,
Yeah, that can be utilized.
Lago now. Going. I don't think it's going naive. Let me double check.
Yeah, he's just sitting there looking at planets, man. And then you hook that bad boy up to. See, he hooked this to his computer. Me, I'm hooking that thing this up to the wallpaper TV, so I can really see it. But yeah, man, like what the stuff we talk about is real stuff, man.
Yeah, I foresee that. This is on my agenda of startups. So next couple of years or so, I'll have it all mapped out and something I'll actually be investing into.
Yeah, that'd be dope, man. That'd
Yeah,
be like
I'm right
groundbreaking
there with you.
for do something like that. That'd be awesome.
I'm right there with you. Go ahead.
Now, I was just going to say that on EDX, there's a lot of intro to astronomy classes on EDX that's self-paced and as well as accredited. So
I took a astronomy class as an elective for school. Um, I admit I thought it was something else, but um, it was a one. It was I did it online. I opted for the online version. Um, and it's interesting, man. You'll learn some stuff now. Don't get me wrong, but I would agree with the self-paced. Self-paced, you you will retain it, especially for me. I retain it more than trying to cram all that information in. Yeah.
yeah,
Any other?
I
Go ahead.
agree with Devin. Devin said all of this stuff is simple. Just have to have the will.
Mm.
Hmm. It's simple because the way we explain it is simple. It's like it's like because when you first put me onto it, I'm thinking that's it, and I started looking at things differently. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's like
definitely.
okay, that's all I got to do is that, bam, bam, and then what was that last week we was talking about real estate on the moon? Come on, like, come.
At first you guys brought it up, right? The first time I heard it, I'm like, man, why does man talking like this? Man, this is bull. And now I'm thinking
Right,
about it's real. Like it can
it's
happen.
real.
Like,
And
yeah.
now, and now you're thinking like, okay, if I can get some lights on the dark side of the moon, I can really have it popping. It's like
Mm.
now it's like, okay, man. Now you plotting and planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is serious. Hey, I'm man, y'all think I'm playing. Shh, I don't want to curse on here. It's a family show, but I'm
Yeah.
serious. I'm not playing around.
So why is what was it Blue Orchid? Why is it hasn't take he has all that money? I'm sure I think he said 100 he hired over like hundreds like at least 100 engineers and staff to get it off the ground. Why hasn't it surpassed SpaceX? So SpaceX got more contracts. Like why hasn't that happened?
Because Blue Origin is more of a passenger base. Um,
Oh,
so they're trying to be the JetBlue of space, right? So they're trying to take people, up into low Earth orbit as well as outer Earth orbit. For passenger purposes. So if you got a 12-seat plane that can, and people are, these rich people are paying $100,000 a seat, that you make a pretty good profit because it didn't cost you much to get up there.
Mm-hmm. That's 1.2 million.
Yeah, per flight. And it might even go up higher than that if it's been proven technology to actually get people back to the ground.
And you do once a month. That's at 12 million. That's over. Oh man, what's that? 18 million dollars, maybe 16, 18 million dollars
Mm-hmm.
a year.
Oh, it wouldn't even be once a month. It would be once a day, right? So you're talking because I mean you only have one opportunity to get off the ground and hit your destination, right? Because of the way the Earth moves and the time.
That's money, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I was a kid, I used to watch like Total Recall and like thought this stuff was like, or watch Star Trek and be like, oh yeah, you know. But it's like the stuff is kind of real. It can happen. Like when you're a
Mm-hmm.
kid, you're thinking about it. You're just like, yeah, whatever. But now it's crazy how we're getting older, and you can see like, yo, this is it's gonna happen by the time my kids, you know, my kids get older, or you know, a lot of my kids get older, but like my great grandkids, you know, it's possible.
Yeah, they're gonna be visiting another planet, like the next planet, man.
Hmm.
Well, you factor in that Africa is talking by 2045 that they plan to get up there as well. Um, what's that, 22 years from now?
Mhm.
Just about.
And we still gonna be here.
Oh yeah, 20. Well, I'll be what? I'll be 60 in my 60s.
I'll be let's say 20 years. 20. Wait. You said 22 years?
Yeah.
I'll be in my 50s. So still gonna be here. Like, man, we did a show 22 years ago about talking about this.
Oh yeah. A lot of stuff will be well documented. Google searches and things like that will bring you a lot of information.
Yeah. And so when black people say, oh, black people don't do that. Nah, we were talking about this 22 years ago, homie. Shut that nonsense up. I hate that, man. I hate that. Yeah. Any other comments before we bring this lovely, outstanding show to a close?
We can go offline.
All right. Well, don't forget to come back Wednesday, Geopolitics Wednesday. And with that said, talk to you later.